Good day, everyone. We are the Group 5. These are the group members of Group 5. Our report is about the chapter Thinking. These are the objectives. What is your phone number? Who was the second president of the Philippines? How many windows are there in your psychology classroom? What is love? How can you lose weight without giving up junk food? The first question is very easy to answer. If you memorize your phone number, you can answer it almost without thinking. Second question may demand a little more effort in thinking. First, you need to pause and think for a moment to recall the past presidents in the Philippines and recall the second president. Third question is quite another matter. If you are most people, you may try to imagine your classroom and count the windows in your mental image in order for you to answer this question. The fourth question is indeed tricky. Shakespeare, your parents, or even your friends may know what love is. But in your own understanding, what is love? These questions intrigues you to think deeply and choose the best definition of love for you. The fifth question is the hardest of all. To answer it, you'd have to draw on one of your most complex cognitive abilities, which is problem solving. Thinking, the action of using one's mind to produce thoughts, opinion, and judgment. Thinking is also a diverse mental processes, some seemingly simple and automatic, others are highly intricate and requires different kinds of knowledge to work on. That is why thinking, the unique human capacity that creates civilization, language, culture, religion, science, philosophy, is such a fascinating and humbling thing to study. Thinking preoccupied psychology from its birth. The complex and elaborate knowledge we have is represented as verbal or semantic concepts, which means a coherent entity in the mind which can be represented by a cluster of symbols, for example, rap music, government corruption. The third one is procedural knowledge. These are the knowledge we store that has procedures on how to perform a specific skill or task, and is knowledge related to methods. For example, small child tying her shoelace. This chapter will focus only on the first two modes of thinking, the conceptual and imaginal thinking, and will discuss the basic processes of conceptual and imagery-based thinking. Conceptual thinking. Concept formation may be considered one of the most basic mental functions of living creatures. It involves the fact that even though stimulus situations are uniquely different from one another, we do not treat them uniquely but respond to them on the basis of our existing concepts. Sinasabi dito na ang isang situation or isang bagay na bago sa atin ay ituring natin as a concept in which it belongs. Hindi natin tinuturing na kung ano-ano but tinuturing natin ito as a concept where it belongs. Said to exist whenever we treat two or more objects or events equivalently by labeling them with the same name. For example, everyone in your class is a classmate. Nilabel natin daw lahat ng tao sa classroom natin as a classmate. Halimbawa, nakita mo yung tao sa classroom mo sa labas ng bahay nyo. Hindi mo siya nakikita as tao na kakilala lang, but nakikita mo siya as a concept of classmate. Diba? Nililabel mo yung tao na yon since nasa loob siya ng classroom mo, so ililabel mo siya as a classmate. Next, rice looks very different from bread, but we eat both. We both think of rice and bread as food. Yung concept natin sa rice and bread ay food. Lahat ng nakikita or naiisip natin na edible na pwedeng makain ay nilalagay natin sa concept ng food or nilalabel natin to as food. The uses of concepts. According to Roche, 1978, concepts promotes cognitive economy by allowing us to perceive, talk about, act upon, and recall many different objects and situations as instances of the same concept, about which we already know something. Without concepts, mental life would be chaotic. Magiging magulo ang lahat ng bagay kung iisa-isahin natin ang iba't ibang sitwasyon o mga bagay. we may be overwhelmed and unable to remember even a fraction of everything we encounter in a single day. Concept allows us in Werner, Austin, and Goodnow's famous phrase, go beyond the information given. Which means that, maliban sa mga bagay na nakikita natin, pwede or dapat tayong mag-assume or go beyond sa information na nakikita or nakuha natin. For example, as soon as you can identify a green object as a mango, you'd know it has seed inside, though you cannot see the seed inside. Sabi nga ni Austin, Werner, Goodnow, go beyond the information given, katulad dito. At lang ang nakita lang natin is green mango, nag-assume tayo agad na meron siyang seed sa loob, or pwede tayong mag-assume na pag kinain natin to, ang lasa nito ay maasim, kasi nga hilaw pa, green pa yung mango. Hindi yung kung ano lang nakikita natin sa isang bagay ay yun na. Pwede tayong mag-create ng ating assumptions sa isang bagay na yun, sa kung anong concept ang gusto natin i-assign sa category na yun. If you met a large silvery white fish with small eyes and sharp teeth and decided it was a shark, the same doon sa mango, ang nakita lang naman natin large silvery white fish with small eyes and sharp teeth. Pero hindi natin nakita na shark talaga yun. Pero nag-assume tayo na shark yun. Yun yung concept natin doon sa nakita natin na shark yun. All this inferred information is part of our conceptual knowledge. Concepts therefore function as mental devices that link perceptual and non-perceptual information. Coslin and Conning in 1992 quoted, to know more about a stimulus than is apparent in the immediate input. Once we have assigned an object to a class or category on the basis of its perceived attributes, we can then infer some of its non-perceptible attributes. Simple concepts can be combined to form complex concepts and thoughts. Midnight and sale. Dalawang simple concepts lang to. Pero pag pinaghalo natin, midnight sale, magiging complex concept na siya. Public schools, beauty sleep, the meaning of life, which we call the most elaborate concepts. Pwede tayong gumamit ng iba't ibang klase ng concepts, mapasimple man, complex, or elaborated. Since a great deal of our mental life involves the acquisition and the use of concepts, an important question to consider would be, what kind of knowledge constitutes conceptual understanding? Having a concept means knowing the properties or features of the instances in the category that the concept represents. If you know the concept of toy, they are colorful, noisy, fun, and used for playing. Yung properties dito ng concept na toy ay yung colorful, noisy, fun, and used for playing. Sinasabi dito na pag alam mo ang concept ng isang bagay, dapat alam mo rin yung properties or features niya. Halimbawa, sa next example, justice consists of your knowledge of the attributes of acts or events that are just. Sa justice which ang features at properties nga is yung acts or events that are just. First is the classical views. The classical view, all instances of a concept are said to have common properties, and these properties are necessary and sufficient to define the concept. Which means that classical view is the instances where a concept needs to have common properties na kompleto upang mabigyan ng meaning ang isang konsepto. The classical view of concepts has suffered from severe criticisms because of many of its implications have not received empirical support. Among the major criticisms of this view are the following, but rarely be specified. Years and years of analysis by philosophers, linguists, and scientists have failed to turn up the defining properties of most concepts. Think about your own friends' ideas of a great date or a lousy movie. Wouldn't you agree that there are no fixed, universally accepted, nor enduring definitions of these concepts? The second theoretical position is the prototype view. Suppose you are asked for a description of the properties of the category chair. Possibly you will readily come up with a list of features like furniture, used for sitting on, has flat surface, usually has 4 legs. Prototype concept. Any given concept in any given language has a real-world example that best represents this concept. Acknowledges that there are properties that instances of a concept have in common. Prototype view theory talks about acknowledges that some properties of a concept shares a common characteristics or properties in other concepts. For example, the concept of a chair and the concept of a square. Di ba nga ang square is a geometrical figure has 4 equal sides. Yun yung properties ng concept of square. For the chair naman, halimbawa sa prototype view, yung chair, meron din siyang geometrical figure. At meron din siyang 4 equal sides. Which is bawal yun sa sa classical view, di ba? Kaya nagawa ang prototype view dahil nga magulo yung sa classical view. So meron tayo dito sa prototype view. Yung concept ng square and chair ay pwede ihalo. Kung doon sa classical view, ang square ay square lang. Kung ano yung properties nga, ay sa square lang talaga dapat. Dito naman sa prototype view, pwede siyang ihalo. Katulad sa chair. Meron siyang geometrical figure and 4 equal sides. Pero chair siya, isa siyang furniture, gawa siya sa kahoy. Parang yun yung pinapahiwatig ng prototype view. Pwede ihalo ang properties ng isang concept sa another concept or shares a common characteristics with other concepts.
Good day everyone. So the first thing we're gonna do is to identify what prototype means and what classical views means. So in prototype, it describes the best examples or the most representative instances of the concept. So in classical views, all instances of a concept are said to have common properties. Since both prototype and classical views have difficult to understand definitions, so let's make it easier by identifying the term grandmother in both prototype and classical view. In classical view, this is how they define or consider a grandmother to be. A person must be female and must be a parent of a parent. This definition is right, but on the other hand, the prototype view defines grandmother to be old, kindly, sweet, wears glasses, white hair in a bun, and sit in a rocking chair while knitting. So basically, for the classical view, if an old woman is not a parent of a parent, she is not considered to be a grandmother. But in prototype view, even if a woman does not have a child but old looking and wears glasses, she can be considered as grandmother. So let's take a look at this. This is Rosana Rosas. She is a local actress, a mother of 2, and a grandmother of 1. She may not be correctly classified as a grandmother in a prototype view because she does not wear glasses, a white hair in a bun, and has an old woman appearance, although she does fulfill the classical definition of a grandmother. So, Rosana Rosas may not be considered as grandmother when we are talking about the prototype view, but can be considered as grandmother if we are using the classical view. Additionally, in classical core properties, regardless of how young or old looking a lady is, we have to find whether she has a child who has a child that determines once and for all whether she is a grandmother or not. So next, what is a fuzzy concept? A fuzzy concept refers to an idea or term that lacks precise boundaries or a clear-cut definition. These have 3 concepts. First, the natural concept, the object concept, and the social concept. So in the natural concept, we have here fruit, and on the object concept, we have here trash, and on the social concept, we have here the happiness. The following concepts vary into person-to-person interpretation, like how we define a fruit. Others may define it as sour and healthy, and some may describe it as just sweet. Some argue that fruit should be sweet, and if otherwise, they may not be considered as fruit. Or in the social concept of happiness, it depends on how we get to experience happiness. Like, for money, some considered it as a kind of happiness giver. but some also may not believe and may contradict. Let's proceed to the conceptual organization of Collins and Killian's hierarchy of animal concept. These concepts are organized in a hierarchical manner with more specific concepts being linked to a broader, more general concepts in the context of animal concept. So in Collins and Killian's hierarchy of animal concepts, we have three different levels. So the first level is the superordinate level. This is the most general category of animals. The second one is the intermediate level, which shows the more specific category of animals. The third and the last one is the subordinate level, which contains even more specific concept of animals. In superordinate level, it is a general category like animals. In intermediate level, it tries to identify the specific category. In superordinate level, it just identifies a certain living thing to animals. But in the intermediate level, it tries to distinguish the more specific category like if it's a cat or dog. On the other hand, the subordinate level comes through the more specific from animals to dog than to bulldog. So basically, the subordinate differs from the certain animal to its animal family. So this is the Collins and Killian's hierarchy. We can see on the upper side the term animal. It acts as the subordinate level. So if we see a creature that breathes and can move, we may identify them as animal. And we can see on the middle part is the intermediate level. We can finally identify in this level if an animal is a fish, a cat, or a bird. And we can see here on the lower part the subordinate level. In this level, we can finally identify what type of cat or fish we are actually seeing. Like if we see a lion, we can no longer identify it as cat. Or if we see a whale, we will no longer use the term fish. These three levels tends to specify the certain family of an animal or species. This is said to be coherent because they maximize the numbers of distinctive properties. Next, we have here the types of categorization of a basic level. First is the speed of categorization. They respond fastest on the basic concept that on either superordinate or subordinate level. For instance, people immediately label objects as ovens rather than appliances. Or if a friend asks for loose powders, when it should be cosmetics. Next is the ease of evaluation. People find it easier to visualize a basic level or intermediate level concepts such as chair than its superordinate level, the furniture. This happens due to the less confusion, like people tend to choose to be more exact. For instance, if you're trying to borrow an eyeliner, it will be more difficult if you will use the superordinate level or the cosmetic term. The next part is the sequence of learning. Children learn basic level earlier than superordinate or subordinate level. Children acquire the concept of dogs and cats before they learn the superordinate level of animals. So this categorization is influenced by our surroundings. This concept is very evident. This sequence may influence the speed of categorization due to the familiarity of a certain animal concepts. Last but not least, the ease of learning. Basic level concepts are easy to visualize or imagine. They are easiest to learn by both children and adults. The reason why we most of the time use the basic level of the superordinate and subordinate is because it is easy to understand. For example, we know that birds are supposed to have feathers and can fly. So if we see an animal that has these, we will automatically label it as birds rather than its pigeon, dove, or eagle.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I am John Michael Sigiaman. For today, I will discuss the imaginal thinking.
So, not all thoughts are expressed as or verbal concept. When we say imaginal thinking, the human brain has the incredible ability to form such image both of the real world and fantasy. Like for example, daydreaming, creating art, writing stories, playing music, and acting. So, example, like, kapag halimbawa magpunta ka ng beach, tapos parang like excited ka, ganyan, and then parang gina-imagine mo na kung ano yung mga nasa paligid, ganyan, like mga clear water, ganon, fresh air, tapos like na-visualize mo yung mga corals, ganon. So, as you daydream about your vacation, you use imaginal thinking to create vivid mental image that help you envision and plan your trip.
So, image as analogical representations.
So, think of mental image like creating picture in your mind. When you imagine something like a beach scene or your favorite food, your brain uses the same areas it uses when you're actually looking at those things. Parang your brain is taking a snapshot of what you're imagining. At makakatulong ito para ma-remember mo yung mga bagay at para ma-solve yung problem and even be creative because you can see things in your mind even when they are not right in front of you.
Experimental evidence of the analogical nature of imagery. Visual images are empirically investigated by objectifying the introspective processes of people. So, the main point here is that experimental studies on mental rotation, visual scanning, zooming, and similar tasks provide evidence for the analogical nature of imagery by externalizing some aspect of mental activity such as reaction time. Researchers can infer cognitive processes. This approach allows for the empirical investigation of visual images by objectifying introspective processes, enabling insights into how people mentally solve problems and manipulate images. Mental rotation. So the mental rotation tasks where objects are mentally manipulated are used in cognitive psychology to study mental operation, like rotation and spatial reasoning. These tasks involve mentally rotating objects such as letters or geometric shapes and can provide insight into cognitive processes. Isa sa halimbawa, isang gawain sa mental rotation ay kapag ipinapakita sa mga participant ang mga hugis o mga bagay na dalawang dimension at hinihilingan silang i-rotate ito sa kanilang isip upang matukoy kung pareho o magkaiba ang mga ito. Example, for instance, participants might be shown a letter F in various orientation and ask if it matches a reference F or if it's a mirror image or a rotate version of the reference. This task requires mentally manipulating the shape to align it with the reference, demonstrating mental rotations abilities. Let's proceed to the visual scanning. Image inspection often involves scanning an image. Try imagining Snoopy to the dog in the popular Peanut cartoons and mentally staring at his feet. Suppose someone asks you to describe his ears. Based on my understanding, visual scanning is like searching for something in a big picture. If you're asked to find something specific, like Snoopy ears, it's faster if you first look where you're told to look, like his head, instead of starting from somewhere else, like his feet. It's about starting your search where you're most likely to find what you're looking for. So, sa zooming, When we imagine something small, like a tiny dragonfly, it's like trying to see a small picture, just as it's harder to see the details in a small picture. It takes more effort to imagine the details of something small in our mind. So, if we want to imagine those details, it's like mentally zooming in to see them more clearly. The uses of imagery: architects, film directors, gymnasts, tricycle drivers who play the twisty side street of our towns and cities, and some mathematicians, among others, will probably be in there. So, meaning, the uses of imagery refers to the use of mental pictures or sensory experiences in the mind. So, in architecture, it helps designers visualize buildings before they're construct. So, pag sa film naman, the directors use it to plan scenes and evoke emotions from audiences. Sa gymnast, use mental imagery to rehearse routines and improve performance. Even the mathematicians use it to conceptualize complex theories and solve problems. In everyday life, people rely on imagery for tasks like remembering directions, problem solving, and creative thinking. So, imagery isn't just limited to artists and athletes. It's a fundamental aspect of human cognition that aids in various aspects of life and work.
So now let's proceed to the problem solving. So now we have the two general types of problems. Is the well-defined. When we say well-defined, it is the goal state is clear and the operators needed to solve the problem no matter how complex or the evidence. So well-defined is very effective when it comes to problem solving and decision-making process. Why? Because a well-defined problem is one that is clear, specific, and understandable with clearly articulated goals and constraints. We have an example. One example is we're like having a clear roadmap. It tells you what exactly the problem is, ano-ano yung itatry mo i-achieve, and what are the rules and limits that you have to follow. It is like having a clear picture of where you're going before you start your journey. Second general types of problem is the ill-defined. When we say ill-defined, it is the goal state itself cannot be clearly specified. No, not impossible to solve, and trying to solve a mystery without any clues. Kabaligtaran lamang siya ng well-defined. So, ang ill-defined, it is unclear what the problem is or how to solve it, making it more difficult to find a solution. When we say ill-defined, it is very unclear. We have no any clues how to solve it. It is making us more difficult to find solution for that problem. For example, we learn always how to live peacefully with our fellow men. It is like until now, or kahit sino naman sa atin, we want to have a peaceful mind, peaceful life. But until now, nahihirapan pa rin tayo. Paano natin ma-achieve yun? Paano natin masusolusyonan yung ganun? Like, kapag ang paligid natin is sobrang gulo, sobrang daming away, so dadating ka sa point na how to have a peaceful life and a peaceful mind. Doon ka na babalik. Paano mo siya masusolusyonan kung mismo ang nasa paligid mo is yun yung problema. And doon ka na naman hahanap ng mga ways kung paano ka magkakaroon ng peaceful life. And another example is like such ill-defined problems as discovering a cure for AIDS. Until now, the doctors are searching what are the cures, paano natin mararesolba, paano natin mapapagaling yung mga taong merong AIDS or mga HIV. Because until now, I think, as far as I know, wala pa rin tayong enough na gamot for that sakit.
So now let's proceed for problem solving has also been distinguished in two broad approaches. So first is the strong methods. When we say strong methods, it is utilized when the exact procedures for arriving at a solution exist. These methods guarantee the correct answer or solution if applied correctly. So strong method, it is a problem-solving approach that is dependable and efficient in reaching desired goals. It produces consistent results, handles complex problems effectively, and optimizes processes effectively and optimize processes for speed and accuracy. It really helps to have a correct solution, but it depends on you, it depends on us if yung procedures na ginawa natin is tama so we can apply it correctly. So also, this systematic method called algorithm. So when we say algorithm, we know that na it consists of rules and formulas when solving algorithms problems in our math subject. Of course, nakikita natin to siya or nakaka-encounter tayo dito when it comes to math subjects. It must follow the formulas and given. So bakit nga ba algorithm is a strong method? So algorithms are a strong method because we are following the steps, formulas, and rules how to solve the problems. So now we will proceed for what are the types of problems methods. First is we have the generate and test. When we say generate and test, it involves systematically selecting one out of several possible operators, testing it, and evaluating the situation after each move. We must have the trial and error. So it is likely trying out different options until you find one that works. Trying to generate possible solutions and then test each one to see if it is solved the problem. Like you have many alternative plans and then ang gagawin mo lang is to have a trial and error. If you try it and then nag-error, you must have another alternative na itatry mo ulit. So para ma-achieve mo yung goal mo and mas resolve mo yung problems na meron ka. One of the example is like halimbawa may nakatakas sa isang kulungan. And then ang mga police is kailangan nilang mahanap yung tao na yun. Hindi naman siguro nila gagawin na magbabahay-bahay sila para tatanungin kung nakita nyo ba ito, ganito, ganyan. But the best thing that they can do is hahanap sila ng mga alternative plans na kung saan is mas mapapadali yung pag-i-investigate nila doon sa tumakas. So next we have the working forward. When we say working forward, it is start with the initial conditions and apply a series steps or action to reach desired outcome. Step-by-step processes set instructions from the start to the end so it can achieve a specific goal. When we say working forward, it is a problem-solving approach where you start with the initial conditions and apply a series of step or action to reach the desired outcome. You're following a set of instruction from the start to finish to achieve a specific goal. One of the example is, when you're baking a cake, you must follow the steps in the recipe and also the ingredients until the cake is baked and ready to eat. Diba? Sa mga bakers dyan na gusto nilang masarap yung cake na binibake nila, dapat perfect, kailangan meron silang ifa-follow na rules, may mga ifa-follow sila na set of instruction na kung saan maging possible yung gusto nilang mangyari na masarap na cake. Kailangan nila sumunod sa mga recipe, what are the ingredients, ano yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng pag-bake. So they can have the perfect na cake for their clients. So now let's proceed for the working backward. In working backward, it is a reverse conditions or state that will lead up to the goal. It is like starting at the end and figuring out what you need to do to achieve your goal. So one of the examples of the working backward is you want to become a registered psychologist in the future. And you're currently a student, so the greatest goal of your life is to have the license a registered psychologist. So if you want that, if you want to achieve that goal, you must figure out what are the steps, what are the ways that you must to follow. Like one of the steps is you must need to aral lang maayos, makapasa, makagraduate, so you can achieve the greatest goal of your life to become a registered psychologist. So now we'll have the means ends analysis. When we say means ends analysis, decomposing problem into sub-goals, breaking down big problems and work towards solving each step until you reach the final goals. It is a problem-solving strategy where you break down big problems into smaller sub-goals, and then identify the means or action needed to achieve each sub-goal, ultimately leading to the solution of the main problem. It involves identifying differences between the current state and the desired goal state, and then determining the steps or means to bridge those differences incrementally. This approach helps organize the problem-solving process and guide decision-making towards reaching the ultimate goal. Means and analysis is nagsama-sama na lahat dito yung mga problem-solving methods that I discussed earlier. When we have the means and analysis, we have a big problem at the moment. Ang kailangan mo gawin is mas mapadali yung pagre-resolve mo doon sa problema na yun. So ano yung mga dapat mong gawin? Paano mo ma-resolve in that specific problem? So like this, we have the example here. The main problem, the initial state, or the main problem for this, the house lock and the key left inside. So, ang pintuan is locked, ang bahay is locked, and then ang susi is naiwan sa loob ng bahay. So, the greatest goal na kailangan mong magawa and maresolba is ma-open mo yung bahay, ma-open mo yung pintuan ng bahay ninyo. So, syempre, isip ka ngayon ng mga bagay or ng mga ways how to solve the problem. So, ang tawag doon is sub-goals. Hati-hatiin mo yung problem na yun and paano mo masisolusyonan in the different ways. First sub-goal is to call neighborhood for help. Tatawag ka ng kapitbahay para tutulong sa'yo. Next sub-goal is to get other keys. Dito na pumapasok yung generate and test. You must have the trial and error kung saan ka magsasucceed. Syempre doon yung susundin mo na ways. So this is the get others key. Next is to call someone that might be inside sa bahay ninyo. Next is to wait for someone. Next is trying opening windows na pwede mong pasukan or akyatin para makapasok ka sa loob ng bahay ninyo. Another sub-goal, third sub-goal here is to find another door. Hanap ka ng alternative pintuan na pwede mo or madali mo mapasukan. Next is to find a heavy object. Next is to open window, of course, and the next is to reach front door. So that three sub-goal, you divide it. Yung pinaka-main problem mo, i-divide mo siya sa tatlo, the different sub-goals, and that different sub-goals help you how to overcome that problem. Paano masusolusyonan yung problem. And this three sub-goal na to is tutulong sa'yo doon sa goal state mo na makapasok ka doon sa bahay ninyo. So, if na-figure out mo na yung three sub-goal na yun, syempre, isip ka na kung ano yung pipiliin mo. So, this is what we have, the proper implementations. And, dito mo nasisimulan i-execute yung plano na meron ka sa isip mo. Paano ka makakapasok doon sa bahay ninyo. That is the means and analysis.
Good day, everyone. My name is Regina Venice P. Kaitan, and I will discuss the problem-solving error. Problem-solving errors, Les Gold 1988 identified three general types of errors. The first error is ignorable errors. These are wrong solution attempts that can simply be set aside, and another attempt made, for they have no serious consequences. Also, these errors are easily corrected or overlooked. For instance, imagine you are searching for a stapler in your desk and check one drawer but don't find it. It is not a big deal because you can just try another drawer without any major consequences. Similarly, when you are doing a crossword puzzle and make a wrong guess, it is not a problem because you can easily correct it. Dialing the wrong phone number or adding too much sugar to your coffee are also examples of ignorable errors because they can be errors but it is easy to fix without much trouble. Okay, let's proceed to the recoverable errors. Recoverable errors are wrong solution attempts that require explicit undoing to return the problem solver to the state prior to the error. This type of error, varying amounts of expertise, effort, and time, and resources are invested in repairing the error. For example, is a wrong chess move. You can recover from that error if you had a Eugene Torre-like grandmaster skills. Or, it could take months to regrow your hair after an erroneous salon visit. You could still also recompute your answer after a catch in mid-solution multiplication error in a math problem. But those precious wasted minutes could spell disaster in a final exam. Even social mistakes can be mended with apologies, flowers, prison sentences, or etc. But in many other domains, graver errors can be put right only after costly expenditures of intellectual energy, time, and money. Okay, let's proceed to irrecoverable errors. Irrecoverable errors, which stem from wrong solution attempts that cannot be undone, or can only be undone with the greatest difficulty. This talks about errors that are really hard to fix. Like when a computer crashes and you lose important stuff, or when a pilot makes a wrong move, or a surgeon's hand shakes during surgery. These mistakes can have really bad consequences, even deadly ones. To avoid these kinds of big mistakes, it is important to plan carefully, get ready well, train a lot, and have a backup plan in case something goes wrong. These steps help lower the chances of making big mistakes and can save a lot of trouble and serious consequences. Let's proceed to the obstacles to problem solving and how to improve your problem solving skills. In this part, I will discuss how problems vary in their level of difficulty and importance. While some problems may be challenging or significant, many of the everyday problems we encounter are quite trivial. With practice and experience, we become adept at solving these routine problems with little difficulty or mental strain. However, even though these problems may not be particularly tough or have major consequences, they are still factors that can make solving them difficult. For example, we might feel frustrated or discouraged and give up on a problem, resorting to looking at the answer in the back of a book. This can lead to feelings of embarrassment or self-doubt, wondering why we couldn't solve the problem on our own despite it not being particularly difficult. And with that, let's proceed to the representational failures. Representational failures can occur in myriad ways, but let's discuss the first one. That there is failure to represent the initial state correctly. This passage highlights the concept of failure to represent the initial state correctly in problem-solving situations. It illustrates concept of example of arithmetic problems, where students may make mistakes by carelessly writing down incorrect information or given. So this is very common to us. This error can lead to incorrect problem-solving approaches and solutions. To mitigate this type of error, expert policymakers conduct a comprehensive situationer. Before formulating solutions to complex societal issues, a situationer involves gathering and analyzing relevant information about current situation, including data, facts, and perspective from various stakeholders. By fully understanding the initial state of context of the problem, policymakers can make more informed decisions and develop effective solutions. Overall, the passage emphasizes importance of accurately representing the initial state in problem-solving process, whether in arithmetic problems or complex societal issues. But let's take note that understanding the starting point is essential for developing successful strategies and achieving desired outcomes. Let's proceed to the second type of representational failure, the failure to accurately represent the goal state of a problem. In simpler terms, it means not fully understanding or recognizing what the problem is asking for, or what the desired outcome should be. For example, imagine a math student who struggles with a problem because they don't grasp what is asking them to find, such as whether they need to calculate a rate, speed, or distance traveled. This confusion about the goal can lead to incorrect problem-solving approaches and ultimately incorrect answers. Similarly, in personal relationships, there may be times when you try too hard to please someone but fail to understand what they truly want or need. This lack of understanding of other person's desire or goals can lead to frustration and misunderstandings. In both scenarios, the failure to accurately represent the goal state can hinder problem solving or interpersonal communication. It underscores the importance of clearly understanding the objectives or desired outcomes in order to effectively address the problem or meet the needs of others. And the last part of representational failure is failure to represent and apply the operators correctly. In simple terms, it means not properly understanding or correctly using the methods or step required to solve the problem. For example, imagine a math student who correctly identifies the initial information and the goal of a problem, such as finding the volume of a cylinder. However, they may still make a mistake by using a wrong formula or substituting incorrect values into correct formula. This error can lead to an incorrect answer, resulting in 0 points or even failing the exam. In other words, even if the student understands the problem is asking for and what information they have, they can still fail to apply the correct mathematical operations to arrive in the correct solutions. This highlights the importance of not only understanding the problem and its components, but also knowing how to use the appropriate methods or formulas to solve it correctly. Let's proceed to insufficient domain knowledge. It says here that no matter how smart you are, you cannot safely disarm a bomb unless you have taken lessons on safely disarming bombs. Learning, training, practice, and some increasing domain knowledge are needed for anyone to become an expert problem solver. Insufficient domain knowledge refers to a lack of understanding or familiarity with the facts, concepts, principles, and procedures relevant to the problem at hand. This passage emphasizes that no matter how smart someone is, they cannot effectively solve problems in a particular domain without sufficient knowledge and training. To become proficient problem solvers, individual needs to continually learn, train, and practice in their respective domains. Increasing domain knowledge through learning and practice is essential for developing expertise in problem solving. Researchers such as Anderson, Chi, Glaser, Farr, and Lassegold have highlighted the importance of increasing domain knowledge as a fundamental aspect of becoming an expert problem solver. This underscores the significance of acquiring deep understanding and familiarity with the relevant concepts and principles within a problem domain. And let us learn about functional fixedness. It is the tendency to see and use objects or concepts in their customary and usual way only. This is demonstrated in the Docker's famous candle problem, illustrated in figures 8.9 and 8.10, and as you can see in the PPT. The concept of functional fixedness, which is a common difficulty encountered by problem solvers. Functional fixedness refers to the tendency to perceive and use objects or concepts only in their usual or customary manner, overlooking alternatives, uses, or perspective. For example, two classic papers by Docker and Meyer define functional fixedness, with Docker's famous candle problem serving as an illustration. In this problem, participants struggle to solve a task involving a candle. Due to being fixed or seeing candle only as a source of light rather than considering alternative uses, the passage suggests that functional fixedness occurs because people tend to focus on the most typical or familiar properties of objects, known as their prototypical uses. However, to become effective problem solvers, individual needs to overcome functional fixedness by generating novel uses for objects or concepts available in the problem environment. These skills, often referred to as thinking out of the box, is highly valued in various domains such as corporate, academic, political, and scientific fields. It involves being able to break free conventional thinking, pattern, and consider unconventional or creative solution problems. By overcoming functional fixedness and thinking creatively, problem solvers can approach challenges from fresh perspective, leading to innovative and effective solutions. A related difficulty in problem solving is termed negative set. which refers to a bias or tendency to solve problems in a one particular way, even when a different approach may be more productive. The concept of negative set, which is a cognitive bias or tendency that limits problem solving by adhering a single approach, even when an alternative methods may be more effective. Negative set, the problem solver becomes attached to a particular approach because it has been successful in the past. However, this fixation is a specific method that can lead to overlooking simpler or more elegant solution that may exist. Example of the negative set could be if someone frequently relies on their kind roommate to wake them up for emergency computer printing. They may develop a negative set mindset of relying on others for help. However, a more effective solution would be regularly checking the ink level in the printer or keep an extra ink cartridge on hand, eliminating the need to depend on the roommate. Researchers such as Grino and Luchins have studied negative set, highlighting its impact on problem solving. Overcoming negative set involves recognizing the limitations of familiar approaches and being open to considering alternative methods or solutions. By breaking free the negative set, individuals can enhance their problem-solving abilities and find more efficient ways to address challenges. Other factors. This passage discusses additional barriers to problem solving that are affective related to emotions, motivational and physical in nature. These barriers can hinder rational problem solving processes and make it difficult to initiate problem solving activities. For example, if someone is in a state of shock, extremely nervous, or hyperstimulated, they may find it challenging to engage in rational problem solving behaviors. This emotional state can overwhelm cognitive processes and interfere with clear thinking and decision making. To overcome these affective barriers, individual may unconsciously employ anxiety-diffusing defense mechanism or consciously utilize emotion-related coping strategies. This mechanism and strategies help manage the emotional overflow and create a more conducive environment for problem-solving activities. The passage refers to the other chapters in the book that discusses this defense mechanism and coping strategies in more detail, so you can check it out. As you can see here, motivation is another factor influencing problem-solving abilities. Motivation refers to the desire or drive to engage in a particular activity or pursue a specific goal. Lack of motivation can hinder problem-solving efforts, particularly when individuals are not interested or invested in the problem at hand. For example, individuals may lack patience and persistence when facing problems that do not capture their interest or enthusiasm. The lack of motivation can lead to reduced effort and engagement in problem-solving tasks. The passage highlights that underachieving students and workers are often unmotivated, especially when goals are imposed to them by external factors like parents, teachers, or bosses. In contrast, individuals like scientists, adventurers, curious children, philosophers, and aspiring inventors are actively seek out to create problems that stimulate their interest and passion. They are motivated by the challenge of problem solving and are driven to pursue solutions relentlessly. By emphasizing the role of motivation in problem solving, the passage underscores the importance of intrinsic motivation, finding personal interest and enjoyment in the process of solving problems. Individuals who are intrinsically motivated are more likely to exhibit patience, persistence, and enthusiasm in tackling challenges, leading to greater success in problem-solving endeavors. This is very common to us because Ma'am Sheila always reminded us na hindi dapat tayo nagkukulang ng tulog or dapat hindi tayo nagsastudy ng gutom or may sakit, dapat palagi tayo nagpapahinga. Because the worrisome relationship of self-deprivation and cognitive impairments for once is robustly documented, especially for adolescents, according to Carpenter 2001. The summarization of our report explores how human encode process information and to explain intelligent behaviors. Discussing conceptual and imaginal knowledge. Conceptual knowledge involves categorizing objects based on defining or prototypical features, while imaginal knowledge involves using mental images. Problem solving is described as bridging the gap between a current state and a desired goal through a various strategies. The complexity of human reasoning and problem solving abilities is highlighted through a quote from Shakespeare Hamlet.